In this tutorial, we'll create an authentication system using Django. Before we start building the app, I would like to remind you that this video is meant to be combined with other videos. So if you want to use Django with Angular, React, Next.js, Vue, Nuxt.js or Svelte, I provided some links in the description below. Also make sure to check scalablescripts.com. Now let's start creating the project. We will use Django REST framework. First, make sure to have MySQL community server installed, and if you want to see the data, you can install MySQL Workbench. Now in Django REST framework.org, click tutorial, quick start, and these are the commands to install Django. I already did it, so I can run here Django admin start project. I'll call it auth, and the project is created. I'll go to the folder, and inside I will create another app. So Django admin start app users. Now everything is created. We can run this project. So Python 3 manage.py run server is a command, and this will run the server on port 8000. So I'll copy this URL, paste it here, and this is our created Django project. Now let's open the project with my IDE. I'm using PyCharm Professional here, but there is a community version which is free. Also Visual Studio Code is also acceptable. So here we have two folders. This is the main folder for configurations, and this is the folder that we will create the users and we can log in. First, let's go to the settings. We will add some packages here. The first one is the REST framework and our users app that we just created, this folder. So we are done here. Also, I will stop the server here and I will run it inside my IDE here. So Python manage.py run server. So this is just my personal preference. Nothing will change now. Now let's go to the users and let's create our user model. Creating a user model in Django is different than creating other models. Creating other models is really simple, but for the user model we have to first import from Django contrib auth models. We'll import the abstract user, because Django already has a user inside and we have to extend our current user with this abstract user. And now our model will be class user. We'll extend this abstract user. Let's add the fields that we need. We need a name, which is models char field. So these are the database field that we will create later. So max length of this field, I will put it 255. We need an email. So it's the same, I will copy it. The difference for the email is that it is also unique. And the password. So I will copy this also. Django also creates a username field. It is required for the abstract user, but we can override it by saying that the username is none. And the username field will be our email. Not like this, but like this. Why I did this change? Because Django usually logs in with a username and a password, but we want to log in with an email and a password. And these are necessary to do this change. Also, we need to add required fields here. to an empty array. So now this is our user model. Still we have to add it to our settings, and in the end here we will add auth user model. We have to specify our user model, which is users, which is a folder, and in the models is the user model. So that's it. So we overrided the default user for Django. Now let's add the migration for this user. First, let's connect with the database. So in the settings, we have a database here, and my database is MySQL. The name here is the database that I have is YouTube Django Auth. The user is root, password is root in my case, and everything else should be correct. So I don't know if I have to specify the host. So I'll connect also with MySQL here. I'll put a data source. In a PyCharm community you won't have this tab, so you should use MySQL Workbench. The user is root, password is root, and the database is YouTube Django Auth. So this is my empty database. Also make sure to install the MySQL client. So for Django to use MySQL, we have to install MySQL client. I already did it, so Python 3. So this is already here. Now this is complaining, not sure why. It is because we have to make the migration. So to run the migrations, we connected with the database now. We have to run a command Python 3 manage.py make migrations. And we created migrations here in initial. We'll see now we have a bunch of fields here, but this is because we extend the user, and the fields that we added are these three fields here. Now let's migrate. So to migrate we have to use migrate here, and the migration are created. If I open here, we can see a bunch of tables here. The table that we want is this users user, where we have a bunch of fields, but we won't use them. We will just use the name, email, and the password. Now let's add the endpoints that we want. So in the URLs here, from Django URLs, we will import path and we will import include, and we'll add the URL pattern for the path, API / and inside. So the second parameter is include. We will create a folder here, not a folder, a file, urls.python, and this will include the users with the URLs folder. So this will accept all the endpoints of the user, and let's add here the URLs. So I'll copy again this, paste it here, and we need to add the register route here. So The path for the register route is just register, and for the function we will create it in the views now. So here let's create the register view. First let's import from REST framework views API view, and we will create the class register that extends this API view. So the API view has a get and a post function, and this will be a post function. Post. And the second parameter is the request. And let's pass for the moment. And this function, this class will be used here. So from the actual folder models, not view, sorry, import register view. I will call it register view better. And this register path will call the register view as view. So we added the URL. Now let's complete this function. To create a user, we have to create first the serializer for the user. So we'll create a folder here, serializers. So in the serializer file now, first let's import from REST framework, import serializers, and create the user serializer class, user serializer. This will import from serializers model serializer. Inside here we'll add a class meta, where we will define the model. So our model is the user model. So from models we need to import the user, and the model is the user model that we have. Second, we need the fields. As we saw, the user has a bunch of fields. We don't want to use them, so I will specify the fields that we want to use in this case. So we want the ID, we want the first, so not the first name, so we want the name, email, and password. These are all the fields that we want to use. Now we created the serializer. Let's use it here. So first, when we create the user, we will create the serializer. So serializer is equal to user serializer. Let's import it from serializer, import user serializer, and we need to pass some data here, and the data will be getting it from the request. So the data is equal to request.data. We can also validate the serializer by using isValid, and if it's not valid, we want to raise an exception to true. So if we put some data that will fail, we want to raise this exception. In the end, we will save the serializer, and we want to return it. So to return it, we have to import from REST framework response. We want to import the response, and in the end we will return response of serializer, and the user that we want is .data. So this is our register view. Now let's use it. So to test it, we have to install Postman. So if you don't have it, make sure to download it, and now let's open it. So the endpoint is localhost port 8000/API/register, and we want to send a post request. In the body, we will send the name, email, ATA.com, and the password, So this is the data that we want to send. So with this we want to register our user. Let's send the request. So we got an error. Actually, I forgot here to run the server. So let's send the request again, and we created our user. But we have a problem. The password is returned as it is. If we see the users in the database, we can see that some values are added, but we don't want them. But the password is set as it is. We want to hash it. So how do we hash the password? We have to do this in the user serializer. So Django already has a hash password for us. So here we can override the default create function. And these are the validated data, which if all are provided, so this will pass. What do we want to do now is to extract the password. We can extract the password by using validated data, pop the field with password, and we can pass none here. So we extracted the password. Now let's create the user. So instance is equal to self model meta model, and we will pass validated data. So these two stars are the validated data without the extracted password. So we will create this user. Now we'll make the condition if the password is not none, then we have to set the password. So instance set password to password. This function set password is a function that is provided by Django. So we already have access to this password, and in this case the password will be hashed. Let's save it, and in the end we need to return the instance. So this is a function that sits in between of the view and the model creation. So with this, now before I create the user, I don't want also to return the password. Usually when we register something, we don't return the password, and how to hide that password there. So we have to add here extra key w args. So here we can add the options for each property here, and the password. The option for the password is write only to true. This means that the password is only for write only purposes, and if we return the user, we won't show the password. So let's create another user now. B and b@b.com, send, and we successfully created the user. So as we can see, the password is not returned here, but let's see in the database what is the value of the password. As we can see here, the password is hashed. So now with this user, let's use this user to login. So let's create the login function. So let's go to the views, and here we will create login view, and this will extend the API view as well. And let's add here a post request. And this will have a request as well. So I'll add pass here so I can add it to the URLs. So here we'll add the login view as well, and the path will be login, and this is the login view. So now let's complete this function. So we will send in the request an email and a password. So first let's get the values. Email is equal to request.data email. The password is the same. Now with the email we want to find the user. So let's find the user, which is equal to user. We need to import it from the models. From models, import the user. User objects find, so filter, sorry, with the email is equal to this email that we have. And we want to find the first user because the email is unique. So we found the user. Make the condition if user is none. We want to raise an exception. Raise exceptions. So let's import here exceptions. So authentication failed. So we'll raise authentication failed. User not found. So if we go to this line, it means that the user is found. Now we have to compare the password. So we cannot compare it directly because the password is hashed, but we have to use it like this. If not, so I will do the opposite. User check password. So we can use this function, which is already provided by Django. So if it is not provided, we will raise another exception. Incorrect password. And if we go here, then it means that the user is the right one and the password is correct. So for the moment, just return response the user, and then we will add the extra things. So let's post to login. This is a post request, and the body will send an email, which is b@b.com, and a password, which is b. Send, and we get an error. So we get this error because the user is not JSON serializable. I will return just message success here, because when we log in we don't want to return the user, we want to return the token. So it means that this is successful. If I provide the wrong email, user not found. If I provide the wrong password, incorrect password. So now we are ready to use JWT tokens. To create tokens, we have to install another package. So I will use it here. Python 3 pip install pyjwt. So this is a package that we want to install now, and we want to use it. First, let's import it. So we need to import JWT. We need also to import datetime. So here now, to create a JWT, we need a payload, and this payload will have these values. First, the ID, which is the ID of our user. So we'll store the user ID here. Second parameter is the expiration, and here we want to set how long with this token will last. So date time datetime UTC now, we will add time delta minutes 60. So we'll keep this token for 60 minutes, 1 hour. And IAT is the date which this token is created, so it is UTC now. So these are the data that we want to use now, and let's create the JWT. JWT is equal to not JWT but token is equal to JWT encode. We need the payload. The second parameter is a secret, so you can put the secret in your application wherever, but I will put it here directly. And the last one is the algorithm, which I will put S256, and that's it. And the token, I will decode it to UTF-8. So this is our token. Let's return it here. So JWT will be equal to this token. And let's see what it looks like. Send the request, and this is our JWT token. This will be used in order to log in our user. Still, we don't want to return it like this, so we have to set it via cookies. So let's set it, let's return this token via cookies. First, we need the response, so I'll cut the response here. We'll create a variable. And we want to return the response here. And I will do it like this. Response.data is equal to this. Now let's set this token to the cookies, and we have to do it like this. Response set cookie. The key will be JWT. This is the name of the cookie, and the value will be this token that we have. We need another parameter, which is HttpOnly to true, because we don't want the frontend to access that token. So the only purpose of that token is to be sent to the backend. And let's see what this looks like. We have no cookies right now. If we send a request, we have a cookie now. So this is the value of the cookie, and it is HTTP only. Now we have to use this cookie to retrieve the user, but first there is also one last change. We need to install also another package, and this is course headers. Sorry, it's Django course headers. Django course headers. So once you install this package, we have to use it here. First, why do we need this package? The first reason is a course problem. I don't know if you have encountered it, but if the frontend has a different port than Django, the request won't happen, and it will throw an error. So we have to add these course headers here to the installed apps in order to prevent that error from happening. We need also to add the middleware. So here we need to add the course header middleware. So this is necessary to prevent the error. Also, we need two variables, which I will add them here. These are these two. So course origin allow all is this to prevent, so this is to allow all the front-end ports to access our app, because otherwise it will prevent from using them. Course allow credentials, this is really important. because we log in with cookies and we return the cookie. If we don't set this to true, then our frontend won't be able to get the cookies. So we have to set allow credentials in order for the frontend to get those cookies. This won't change anything in the request here, but this is used only for the frontend. Now let's get this token in order to get the authenticated user. So let's create here class user view is a API view here, and this will be a get request. Let's pass and let's use it to the URLs. So this will be user, and this will be the user view is here, user view. Now let's go to the user view, and now we have to get the cookie, and from the cookie to retrieve the user. So first let's get the token, which is equal to request cookies get JWT. So like this. So with this we get the cookie that we want. Let's return a response with the token so we can see that we got the value. So let's send a get request to user. When we switch tabs, it will preserve also the cookies here, so don't worry. As we can see, we got the cookie because it is preserved. Now we got the cookie, let's decode it to get the user. So first, if the token is, so if not token, sorry, if the token is not set, we need to raise an exception, unauthenticated. Because we are not logged in like that. Then we will make a try except. So inside we'll get the payload, which is equal to JWT decode this token is the first parameter. The second parameter is this secret here, so is the same value. And the last parameter is the algorithm. And that's it basically. So this time the algorithm will be an array. With this we get the payload, and if it fails, we'll still raise the exception. So the exception here is JWT expired signature error. So we got the payload. The payload is this here. So inside we have the ID for the user. So let's get the user. User is equal to user objects get, and we have to pass the payload ID here, and we get the user. So let's return the user in the end, and we are done. So the user is not JSON serializable, so we have to use it with serializer is equal to serializer, user serializer, sorry, with the user inside, and we will return the serializer.data here. Let's see. So we made a mistake here, but it means that we successfully got the user. So I will switch this get to a filter where the ID is equal to payload ID, and I will get the first value. So with this change, we successfully get the authenticated user, and we don't send anything, just this cookie. So this is how we get the authenticated user. Now let's add the last class, which is a logout. Logout view, API view here. This will have a post request. And what do we want to do now is just removing the cookie. So response is equal to response delete cookie JWT, and the response data is equal to message success, and we will return this response. So is this easy? Let's add it to the URLs. Logout view, and this is logout. I'll copy this URL now, paste it here, and now we will post to logout. So we were authenticated here, so we can get the user. Let's post to logout, message success, and we don't have any cookies. Send the request, we are unauthenticated, so we successfully logged out. If we log in again and we get the user again, we get the user. So this is how the authentication works in Django. I hope you like this tutorial. If you like it, please like, share and subscribe. Thank you.